What's up, beautiful souls? Just had a special guest on today, Dr. Gregory Damato. He's down in Costa Rica doing very beautiful, intense detoxes. Literally all of the 140,000 chemicals that we take in, he's detoxing that in the jungles of Costa Rica. And a couple of my friends went down there and they're giving me raving reviews. So it's a joy to have Dr. Damato on the podcast today. He talks about how to detox, talks about who we really are, how to become superhuman, and how to get a front row seat for the beautiful, amazing, historical time it is in humanity right now. So you don't want to miss this episode with Dr. Gregory Damato. Check it out and let me know what you think. Peace. If you haven't heard yet, peptides work. And it's taken me a while to really believe this, but I know it to be true now. I've witnessed so many people's lives being changed and shifted by peptides. There's 15 years of research, that I've spoken to experts that show that peptides work. But most importantly, I'm an experiential psychiatrist. And so I tried the peptides personally for myself. And I'm not talking about research peptides from China. I'm talking about real, straight made in USA from a compounding shop pharmacy, pure peptides, which are short chain amino acids. They're like little light signals in the body, and when you inject them orally or you take them through an insulin needle, it literally turns on certain pathways in your body to produce more energy, all different types of things. You can lose weight with it, you can build muscle with it, you can anti-age with it, you can grow hair with it. There's so many different pathways that peptides can turn on in the body. So I am officially a firm believer, and that's why we started limitlesslivingmd.com, which sponsors this podcast episode. And so peptides, literally, no matter what you're trying to do in your life, health is your greatest wealth. And there's a reason why the FDA tried to ban peptides, and the reason why RFK said the first thing he's going to do when he gets into office is legalize peptides, because they work. They can help with all different types of health conditions. And we have at limitlesslivingmd.com created a company. We want to make these affordable for everyone. Pure pharmaceutical peptides delivered straight. You can order it straight from your home. And if you don't know where to begin, we're offering a special free 15-minute consult with a peptide coaching expert who can literally get you on the right peptide, but most importantly, the right dosing. That's really important. There's a lot of people right now being overdosed on certain peptides. So the right peptide, the right dose, ordered from your home, delivered straight to your home within 3 to 5 days with everything you need to get started on the peptides. A lot of these other companies aren't giving you everything you need, and there's clear educational material on how to get started. So if this is you, you're curious about peptides, you feel called to experiment with peptides and get into your best physical health shape, there's a QR code that I've been talking on. Click that QR code, or in the links below, click that QR code for a free 15-minute consult with a healthcare peptide expert who can help you figure out which peptide is best for you, what dose to get started on, and within 3 to 5 days, if that's the route you decide to go, it can be delivered straight to your house. So I'm really excited about the magic of peptides and helping people with peptides, because it's been helping me, and I know that it can help you. So check it out, limitlesslivingmd.com. Use the code Dr. Lee, DRLEE, for 15% off. New global paradigm of mental health. Let's go. What's up, beautiful souls? Welcome to another episode of the Spiritual Psychiatrist Podcast. And today's guest is Dr. Gregory Damato. And I first heard about Dr. Greg when our mutual friend, Ariana and Isabel, went down to Costa Rica and did this semi-intense liver cleanse. And they came back and they were hooked. And they were telling me about this liver cleanse. They were telling me about some chocolate. And then, I got to listen to one of Dr. Greg's podcast episodes, and they're like, yo, bring him on the pod. And so it's a pleasure to have you here, Dr. Greg, on the Spiritual Psychiatrist Podcast. Thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, brother. It's a beautiful pleasure and an honor to be here and to share some of the magic and the wisdom with your beautiful audience that's always eager to learn, right?
Absolutely, brother. Appreciate you being here. I just want to dive right into it, man. So, there was a time where the Western doctors told me, Sam, if you don't quit drinking, Your liver is cirrhotic and you are going to die within the next year. And then this led me on a path to learn, more and more about the liver and about the importance of the liver. And, some spiritual traditions say like the lower spirit, if you're not careful, is held in the liver. And some Chinese medicines place the importance of detoxing the liver. So can you take us a little bit into detox in general, why it might be important for humanity right now, and then also kind of into the way that you detox, and then also just about any wisdom about the liver? Like, we'd love to learn more about what you're up to in the jungles of Costa Rica helping people.
Yeah, definitely. So what we do here is called the superhero program, and the superhero program goes deep into detoxification, right? So these ladies just left, and if I showed you a picture of before and 3 days into it, you would not even recognize this person. Like, you just could not. So what we start to do is, the liver, right? The liver is the most burdened organ in the human body in this third density state because we were exposed to over 140,000 chemicals every day. Right. And the main glutathione pathway, which is the detox pathway, is liver, gallbladder, out through the stool. So what happens is when we're exposed to 140,000 chemicals, this liver pathway, which is the drain, right? It's like the drain if you're doing your dishes and you get that thing clogged, like you're not going to be able to do any dishes if this thing continues to be clogged, essentially. So we have to dump that. So the average person has about 30,000 liver and gallstones because this pathway has been burdened with excess calcification. So when we start to dump that pathway and open it up, people's skin is glowing, the anger, the aggression, the resentment, the depression, all these things that are there, the emotions start to just dissolve, right? So what happens is people are more in a state of joy and presence and happiness, and they're not processing the world in such a calcified, hardened state, right? They start to become more in a yin state, more in a balanced state. Right. So we have these microplastics, we have all these chemicals, the burden is ridiculous. Every week we have about 5 grams of microplastics that we absorb. 5 grams. That's a credit card thrown in your smoothie every Monday morning, right? And the liver takes this massive, massive burden. If we can't detox the liver, everything starts ending up in the blood, right? So we start people on liver cleansing, we get into kidney cleansing, we get to intestinal cleansing. We then go candida, fungus, parasite, lymphatics. All these things are so burdened because there's never really been a planet where we have 140,000 chemicals that we're exposed to every day, right? 50% of the air contains Roundup, right? A weed killer, glyphosate, that works on the Shigeti mate pathway. That's our probiotics, right? So we start to eliminate the gut flora. We start to eliminate the neurotransmitters. We start to eliminate the tryptophan, the serotonin, the melatonin, the niacin, the GABA. All of these neurotransmitters are produced in the gut, right? So when we start looking at sort of environmental toxicology, which I've been doing for over 20 years, we start to see, well, if we don't detox, we start to become less human. We become less godlike. We become less light, less love, less compassion, less harmony, less peace. We become more calcified, right? Become angrier and sadder and all the things, right? So we're kind of made of these two things, right? If we zoom out to all the sort of work that we sort of do, it's love, which is the Fibonacci spiral, right? This is the magnetics in the body. This is our DNA. And then inside of that is light, right? And light is photons, electrics, masculine energy. So when we bring them together, we have electromagnetism, right? Which is the torus field, a combination of electrics and magnetics kind of thing. So when we're trying to really clean the body, we have to do the body, the mind, the spirit, the emotions, and we start to really master all of these things, right? Which is so important now if we want to vibrate our soul's highest potential.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of like a verse that Jesus said back in the day, Yeshua, where he said, you can't put new wine into old wineskin. If you put new wine into old wineskin, the wineskin will burst. And it's like the soul and the higher self, the oversoul, you're talking about densities like third, fourth, fifth, sixth density, or fifth density, is a higher frequency. And unless we literally detox and prepare the vessel to hold this frequency, it can't hold it. It'll literally explode. And so I think like it's super important. And not only that, I think a lot of us light workers, if you want to call it, are getting the message that for this state in time, it's really important to not just ascend, but to descend like a descended master, to be embodied, to be in your body, and to bring not your soul to some crazy place up there, but to bring it into your vessel. And a very important part of this is detoxing and getting rid of what's not you. So what is you can not be, shine forth. And so appreciate the work that you're doing. Can you take us a little bit deeper into, I think you have very unique methods. So when it comes to, without giving all your secrets away, like the liver, the kidneys, and take us a little bit deeper into your detox process. And I know you said in 3 days, like people, their skin shines, brighter, and you can't even recognize them. So take us a little bit deeper into like the modalities and the processes that you do for detox and how the science kind of works with that.
Yeah, so people come very adrenal burned out, right? You can't heal in a state of adrenal burnout, right? So we'll do a bit of psilocybin, right? A little bit of gentleness, which is a serotonergic neuronostic, right? So through serotonin, which is 3.78 billion years old, we're going to start to rewire the brain to get you out of your head and more into the heart. So the new neural networks that are being produced, even with 25 milligrams a day, which has an 80% reduction in depression over 2 weeks, will start to rewire the brain for more of the feeling state, right? Because in Western world, we're all into the thinking, the electrics of the mind, but we don't know how to ground it with the magnetics of the heart. Right. So when you look at how information comes into the body, it first comes into the heart. It says, how do you feel about this room? How do you feel about this place? How do you feel about this person here? How do you feel about this drink I'm going to give you? What do you think? I don't know. Right. So the heart says, I don't think so. Goes up to the brain. The brain says, well, I don't know. What do you think, heart? Goes back down to the heart. The heart always has the final say, typically. But in Western, world, what's happening is we've closed off the heart. Right, the heart rate variability has been screwed up. We're not in a state of brain coherence, therefore we can't get to heart coherence. So the first step we do is just bathe people in complete and utter silence, right? Just in nothing, no road, no traffic, sitting in a nature reserve, the best water ever, right? So if you want to first heal, you have to have silence, you have to have nature, right? You cannot heal the human body without scalar energy, right? Similar to Reich's orgone energy, which gets the flow of chi through the chakras and the meridian point. So what we do is we match everything that's found in nature, right? So it's the love and it's the light, it's electromagnetism kind of combined. So we have beautiful structured water, right? The fourth phase of water, H3O, right? Because inside the body is a gel-like substance, which is structured water, right? It's an extra hydrogen ion. So we say, okay, if the water isn't structured and we need structured water to heal the body, that's part of the yin elements, then how do we structure water? So we structure water, we put it in a subterranean oval-shaped tank, which is Victor Schauberger's research on how water likes to be treated from a fourth density state, right, of love and understanding. So then we pull that out and we structure it with shungite, magnetize it. So now you're showering in structured water, right? So you got silence, the purest water ever, right? So the nervous system can start to listen to the beating of the heart, right? And then we say, okay, if we're trying to cleanse the blood, what do we have in nature that matches the blood? And that's young coconut water. So 55% of the blood is plasma, which is matched with 100% of coconut water. The other 45% of the blood is hemoglobin, which is matched 100% with chlorophyll. Green juice. The only difference in hemoglobin and chlorophyll is hemoglobin has iron in the middle, while chlorophyll will have magnesium in the middle. Right, so we start people fasting on coconut water. We put about 15 things in there: activated charcoal, milk thistle, our own moringa, a whole host of things to start to get the body pulling out the lower densities, right? The heavy metals. We throw chlorella in there. We throw phycocyanin in for stem cell regeneration. We do that for 4 or 5 days. Then we get them on green juice. So we built the plasma. Now we're building the hemoglobin. And then we're building that. So then we start throwing more stuff in there. We throw aloe vera in there, the king of plants. I mean, it's kind of the best ever. It creates a polysaccharide gel and pulls everything out electromagnetically. At the same time, we're pulling plants for parasites. Last time we did 5 different types of parasite cleanses. But it's really understanding what are these things looking at, right? If you look at research of symbiogenesis, that every 1/100 millionth of a second, your body's being scanned by the universe and things are electromagnetically being created out of thin air to balance that which you need, right? So if we say, okay, what's happening with the kidneys? What's happening? Why do we have parasites, right? Parasites are the miners of heavy metals. So we can't kill off the parasites unless we're getting rid of the mercury fillings, the cadmium, the lead, right? We can't get rid of the blood flukes unless we get the benzene chemicals and the solvents out of the liver and out of the uterus, causing endometriosis and all these things, because they're all those things that we see, all the bacteria we call bad bacteria, is simply there because the good bacteria weren't sufficient to clean the house, right? That we weren't cleaning the house properly. So we brought in all of these things to start doing it. So it's really understanding like how the body works from a higher perspective of understanding, right? And looking at the balance of the human microbiome. How do we do that, right? We use the best probiotics that are fermented for 5 years, playing Mozart every day by a Japanese microbiologist, right? So all of these things that we use are saying, well, how does nature work, right? And how can we support that? It's not really bringing anything in that's different than what the body already does. But it's how can we support the removal of the 140,000 chemicals? How can we support the glutathione pathway, right? Where does glutathione come from, right? How do we support that? So we give people high doses of NAC. NAC grabs glutamic acid and glycine, makes a tripeptide known as glutathione. So this is the garbage bags, right? If we don't have the garbage bags for the house, we could sweep up everything, we could put everything in the lymphatic system, which is the vacuum cleaner bag, sucking up the floor. And what happens is we don't have anywhere to put it, right? So when we see these diseases of the Western world, specifically the big C, right? We start to see a loss of oxygenated blood. We see hypoxia, right? We see acidosis from lack of alkalinity because the parathyroid gland will start pulling all these minerals out to buffer the acid from all these 140,000 chemicals because we've lost the ability to produce cysteine because it comes from sulfur. Sulfur is produced from the composting cycle, right? Which we don't have anymore. We have nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, NPK. So all these things are basically looking at, well, what environment are we really living in? How does the body respond to that, knowing it's one of the most perfect machines, if not the most perfect machine, ever created by God? How can we support it by not demonizing it, by saying, okay, what do you really need to be at your highest? Right? Mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. So the research I've done is basically looking at this environmental toxicology. What do we need to remove these things? How do we work on nervous system? How do we work on human microbiome restoration, neurotransmitters? How do we bring in entheogens and microdoses? How do we bring in chocolate? How do we bring fun and joy back into it? How do we love everybody up so much that they can actually breathe, for the first time in years and get that exhale, because our electromagnetic pump is through the breath, right? It's right on the heart chakra. So when people lose their breath in life, guess what happens, right? You get that magnetism, but you don't get the electrics. And this electromagnetic pump is what opens that 528 hertz of that green ray of the heart chakra that brings in all the light that creates wholeness. So we can get back to that natural rhythm of breath by surrendering to nature and getting into a beautiful environment where everything is soft, everything is quiet, everything is working towards you. There's nothing to fight, right? You're not fighting toxins. You're just opening the door and say, all right, guys, come on out. It's time. And people feel completely different, right? They sound different. They're surrendered. They're at ease. And they're continuing, right? Because you can't not maintain this avatar, right? You can't just leave the brakes in the car and, the flat tire's there and you're pumping it up, but you got the nails still in it. It's like, there's some rust. I'm going to paint over the rust. It's like, So it takes a very powerful soul to be willing to do the work, but the reward if people are willing to put the energy in is just mind blowing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and so we're in this day and age. Obviously, you've made a nice little move there to Pura Vida, Costa Rica, in the jungles, which probably has less toxins than most of the urban concrete jungles. But yeah, point made is like 140. I don't know what you said, 1,000 toxins, 5 grams of microplastics. Not to mention EMF, not to mention chemtrails, not to mention everything they're putting in the water. And then when we eat sushi and all these different things are going in, and it's important. It's crazy to think that most people, like, there's like a mile of intestinal lining and they've never once actually like cleared it out ever. And it's amazing that when you actually do these detoxes, literally your thoughts literally start become lighter. You can feel it real time shifting. And as a psychiatrist, what I noticed is 99% of all psychiatric problems are literally people who walk in identifying with their thoughts, which are little cloud forms of energy which come and go, but they literally pull it in and they identify with their thoughts as if they are their thoughts. And these little thoughts are coming from the gut bacteria, which have personality, which all of these kind of pollutants and things are creating an environment for these bacteria to grow, which literally have personalities, which literally affect not only the neurotransmitters, but the gut-brain axis, which literally affect the thoughts, which literally affect your mental health, which literally the universe is mental. So it's beautiful to hear that you have this modality mimicking nature, where you're balancing, first of all, the Western brain is so in their electric mind, 3D, and you're balancing with the 2D emotional, magnetic, and electromagnetic, and coming back to the wisdom of the heart, and doing that in the beauty of nature and stillness, and finding that stillness. The doing comes from being, where the brain waves drop in, the body gets a signal it's safe, and then utilizing the breath, utilizing the psilocybin to serotonergic effect, which signals contentment, which lets the body know, I'm okay, I'm good, I'm fine, I don't need to achieve. And then from there, obviously, you have these beautiful methods and modalities using the plants and coconut water to detox and to really create that environment for the person to become who they are. And I love how you're tying this also to density levels, because the more that we cleanse the physical, the more our, if you, from the tradition I come from, so it'd be like third density, which is, your soul, which is fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension, your oversoul, seventh, eighth, ninth dimension, your, avatar, Cristo self, 10th, 11th, 12th dimension. It's lighter frequency, and it wants to embody. And as soon as we are able to create the environment for it to literally, it's already there, but like to create the environment so that it can come alive, then it comes alive, and we start becoming more of our embodied, true higher self. And I think it's this really beautiful time in humanity where your podcast is called Superhero Podcast. And, I think we might resonate that beneath all of this bullshit and crap, literally pounds of shit in the gut, is a superhero waiting to be remembered. Literally telepathy, bilocation, all these things, clairaudience, clairsentience. These are all natural God-given abilities of a human being once we clear the shit out. So talk to me a little bit more about, this detoxification process, and then the density levels, and from your perspective, like, who we really are and how detoxification can play a role in a higher self embodiment and activating your superhero.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. As soon as we start having a bit of pesticides, what we notice is the vision in the eyes and the pineal gland. Much of these are fluoride based, right? It starts to target this light crystal, this truth center, right? Which is the center of sort of, six densities, that indigo ray of the pineal gland, which is for full acceptance, right? Which gets us into the higher densities when you accept all that's here, that everything is unnecessarily necessary. So when we start to work through that, what happens is we start to get to an inherent state of flow, right? And that flow state, once you get to it, right? Once you detox the mind, the body, the spirit, and you're building out this, human microbiome, and then that creates your B vitamins. B vitamins create your fatty acids. Your myelin sheath is 80% EPA and DHA. All of it comes back to the gut, the psychobiotics, and all these things. They're ushered up into the brain at 1/100th millionth of a second via the vagus nerve. So they say, look, it's here. It's like, but it's produced down there is the factory, right, of every single neurotransmitter we have. So when we start to touch the soil, right, which I call the macrobiome, which is an emulation of the microbiome, we start to get serotonin, right? When we're picking our fruit, we start to get dopamine, right? If you take away our fruit, you take away our soil, what are you left with? Yeah, Facebook likes and all the social media and all these things. It's a synthetic reality. So to come back to God consciousness, we have to get into that flow state. And nature is the only source of flow state, right? So if you talk about scalar technology, simply just being in nature, research of just hugging a tree, right? An energetic transfer. Because in this reality, in this holographic world, we can only see 0.05% of what is. And all of our research and knowledge predominantly is based on what we can actually see with the eye, which is the 7 chakra colors. That makes up the visible light spectrum. So 99.95% of this reality is unseen. Think of how ridiculous that is, right? So when we start to get into the feeling state, when we start to hit a coffee enema and say, how did you feel after that? Most people are like, I don't know. Kind of weird, but keep going, because we've never really been asked, how do we feel, right? What do you deeply desire in life? I tell it to clients and they're like, what do you mean? I don't know. No one's ever asked me. I have no answer for you. I'm like, what? Right? Because it's do this, do this, do this. There's choice A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That leads to choice 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The doors open to other doors, but none are actually chosen by the soul or the spirit. So we fumble through life picking the doors and trying to find the ones that feel good, but none of them really feel good, right? Until we kick down the doors and get back into nature and say scalar feels amazing. Right, so there's a technology out there called Blue Shield, right? So if you look at EMFs as a frequency, right, the most damaging frequency to the human energetic field is a 2.45 gigahertz frequency. This is a microwave frequency. So your cell phone is about 2,000 times less powerful than the microwave, but you're around it thousands and thousands of more times. So every tower that came up in 1996 started causing massive issues in the human energy field. They started seeing cytochrome oxidase C issues, which breaks down your fats to triglycerides, fatty acids, starts breaking down your proteins to amino acids, your carbohydrates to sugars. So people started having heart attacks and strokes as soon as we started electrifying the human energy field, because every cell in the body is 1/325th billionth of an amp sensitive, right? So when we start to do that, we see 8 times the cortisol, 8 times less melatonin. So we're in this constant state of go, go, go. Like it just never ends. Just being electrified. There's a great book called The Invisible Rainbow, which is probably one of the most important books ever written in the last 100 years, because it goes over 120 years of research of what's happened. So heart attacks and strokes used to be the 26th cause of death pre-electrification of the human energy field. It quickly went to number 2. Right? We started seeing calcified arteries and all these things in birds and everything dropping out of the sky, the insects, all these kinds of things. So we start to mess with the natural rhythm of nature that's been here on this planet 6.6 billion years. We start to throw off the very subtle energetics and vibrations of the 33 trillion cells in the body, not to mention the frequencies of sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium, every leucine, amino acid, tryptophan. All these things start to change just a little bit. Their affinity starts to change, the calcium channels start to change, the heart rate variability starts to change. So as soon as we get into nature, right, and we get into a scalar energetic field, that 2.45 gigahertz gets displaced, right? And that's the frequency of your cell phone, that's your Bluetooth, it's also your Wi-Fi, it's your 3G, it's your 4G, 5G is a whole nother creature. Right? But it's your microwave. So it's all these kinds of things that disrupt the human energy field. So they start disrupting the human microbiome. 2.45 disrupts the Shirimate pathway, which is the pathway for probiotics. 95% of our serotonin, our dopamine, all these things are going to start being interfered. So we're less than human, right? We're not that energetic charged child. We're just, I got to go to work today. No one looks you in the eye. They're not human anymore. The human is an open-hearted, beautiful love being full of compassion, right? And we've been transformed by throwing off the natural rhythm of serotonin, 3.78 billion years old, the grounding into the nature, because our transformer here, our producer of all that, has been cooked, right? It throws off the magnesium pathway, activates the limbic system. So we're now supercharged all the time, driving a little metal box on wheels, right? Everyone's supercharged because they're not into that flow of nature. We have competition. We don't have cooperation, right? So we have all these things that begin to happen when we start to get back to scalar energy field, right? If you look at your DNA is basically the antenna for light. It's measured in Tesla and microtesla. It's a Fibonacci spiral of love. It's the magnetic attractor pattern. If you take a piece of DNA and you put it in a room with nothing else in it, nothing happens. If you take that same room and you start putting little bits of photons as light, what will happen is that will start to suck it, right? Your DNA will go, right? So the divine masculine, which is knowledge or wisdom, as light, will look for that divine feminine, that Fibonacci spiral of love, and that will create the electromagnetic wholeness of everything. Right? So what happens when we're in an electromagnetic field is our DNA is now picking up, instead of scalar and orgone from the bright blue sky, the ocean being blue, this is the orgone, is what makes that all blue, studied by Wilhelm Reich. And what happens is it starts to pick up foreign frequencies. It starts to pick up 2.45 gigahertz. It starts to pick up 9 gigahertz, first about 5 gigahertz. All these things aren't natural frequencies of the human energy field. So that conversation of listening to the inner whispers of natures and the plants now becomes a different frequency, right? Similar to how music has been manipulated with a 432 versus the 440 kind of thing. The frequencies are very subtle electromagnetic alterations, but it takes us slowly away from that vibratory flow state of wholeness, right? Wholeness is the highest vibration possible. It's the yin, it's the yang, it's the masculine, the feminine, the electro, the magnetic. All of that creates this beautiful state of complete and utter flow. But to get there requires the feeling state, which is more fourth density, right? To really feel and say, something's not right. And a lot of people do that. And of course, they go to Western medicine doctors, right? And then they're basically given a pharmaceutical to switch off the feeling state that says, hey, something's wrong. It's like, no, it's not wrong anymore, blah, right? And if you look at the Latin term for doctor, it comes from adductor, which is teacher. Physician comes from the Latin physica, of relating to everything in the natural world, right? The physical world. So a teacher of everything natural, a medical physician, is very different than what we have today, right? So we're trying to learn, but it's been subverted a bit, right? We have truth and we have falsity. Falsity is simply an absence of truth, right? And we get to the point of, well, how do we get that flow state, right? We have to return back to the flowing state of water, the natural rhythms of nature, the insects at night that we can hear that are going, like that are in the jungle, and that have been, much of them eliminated. But the crickets, you can tell the temperature from crickets outside. They also help you produce melatonin at night from the frequencies they have. So the more we sit in the deep profoundness of nature, the more we begin to truly feel that rhythm. The frequencies external to us tell us to go, 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 keep going, keep going. We're like, where are we going? I don't know. You got to get there fast. All right, faster, faster, faster. And we're all in these metal boxes on wheels and 16 lanes around. Where are we all going? I don't fucking know, And we all slowly go insane. And we say, well, who's pulling all the strings, right? We got to get back to nature. We got to get back to the feeling state. We got to eat more chocolate. We got to drink tea while it's actually warm, right? We got to be fully present in a state of presence of gratitude, right? Without that presence, there you go. Life is completely just goes, bam. We're like, oh, where'd that 10 years go? Where'd that 20 years go? Geez, what just happened? Because we are in this state of brain discoherence. We forgot to feel, right? You're not going to get anyone to smell a flower on a battlefield, right? We have to get out of the battlefield and bring the roses and plant them and look at them every day. Right? If we don't do that, that brain discoherence will create a whole host of problems in the body. The chakra systems will close. The meridians will flip off, which are little breaker systems for the energetics that have been supercharged, and they're not switching on unless you do some work. Right? So all the closed heartness and all these kinds of things, broken heart syndrome, it's basically designed to shut down the spirit. Right? And the more we can get into that true state of feeling, to know there's something that needs to change and start asking that question, well, how do I feel more alive? How do I sleep deeper? What is preventing my deep sleep, which is a global issue right now? This is being cooked by microwaves, right? If you plug in a Blue Shield device, it pumps scalar all day long, and you won't believe how good you sleep. You won't believe how good you feel. You'll get out of that brain discoherence. You'll get into heart coherence. You'll have a flood of melatonin. You'll detox for 3 days with headaches and mucus, dumping all these EMFs because your DNA is now hooked on to scalar frequency of nature, regardless of how many 5G towers are around you. This is a frequency that's just going to pump scalar, and the body cannot heal in a deficiency in scalar energy, right? This is why everything's getting plowed under, and there's all kinds of stuff there, right?
What's up, beautiful souls? The rapid 12-strand DNA activation. Activate your inner Christos. Activate your 12-stranded DNA. All of the techniques have been split up into bite-sized chunks with homework reading assignments to help you understand the eternal life wisdom. And we've literally put this online in the Eternal Life Tribe community on School. So you're not only to get the rapid 12-strand DNA program, and we're having people have massive shifts through this program, literally aligning you to your highest timeline, eventually aligning you to your highest spiritual destiny. And it's all online in the Eternal Life Tribe community on School. We just won the School games, which means for category self-improvement, we've been, we won the month. We had the most signups. And then not only that, our churn rate, people signing stopping the program and leaving, is super low compared to the normal average. So there's something that's happening on the tribe in the School program that is working, that is shifting lives. Not only that though, you're gonna get bi-weekly live Q&As with me, which means that sometimes the Eternal Life Wisdom, it's a lot of wisdom. It blows away your paradigms. You have questions. I'm going to be there 2 times a month to answer all of your questions, to make sure that you have the accurate information to begin remembering your 12-stranded DNA, your avatar Cristo self. We also have free guided meditations. And one of the most exciting things is once every month or two, we do powerful online breathwork sessions at home, and people are shifting, people are remembering. And once you remember and you shift yourself, then you start activating for Mother Earth. And that's starting to happen. We're starting to heal Mother Earth. So check it out. Everything that I've ever learned is 10 plus years working as a psychiatrist, all my favorite supplements, everything is on there. Literally the school online community, Eternal Life Tribe. Click the link below, or we'll also send you a QR code to the school community. And if that's on the screen right now, you can click the QR code, check it out. Eternal Life Tribe, school community. And I hope to see you on the Eternal Life Tribe.
Yeah, love that. And resonating. And so, one time I was in the Amazon jungle and I was literally under the influence of Aya. And I went outside, and I was a LA party boy at the time. And I didn't know anything about nature. And exactly what you were talking about, like scientifically speaking, happened. Like I dropped from my crazy mind, went quiet, and my heart opened up. And you can feel it like happening somatically, even though this was so long ago. I know, like just listening to your story, like this is what's happening electromagnetically. And then I was literally put my hand against a tree, and I was an LA party, but I didn't know anything about nature, how to breathe with trees. I didn't know anything. Like, so something intuitively was taking over. And I started breathing, and as you were talking about, when you the breath, into the heart, and as I started doing that, these electromagnetic scalar wave electromagnetic lines started shooting out of me into the tree, into the stars, and everything was interconnected through a elaborate scalar wave. We're part of nature, we're not separate from nature. And I was like, wow. And under the influence, I could see it, and I was like, I'm never alone. I'm interconnected to everything, and love is the cohesive power of the universe. And when we get out into nature, as you were describing, like that photon experiment, the language of the potential intron non-coding DNA, scientists used to call junk, it's not junk, it's scalar waves, which is sound, light, and also symbols. And when we get out into nature, so imagine, as Dr. Greg is saying, when we're in, like, driving in LA, we're getting radio waves. That morning we got microwaves. We got the chemtrails coming through, and literally all of these things. And then we got the radio blasting, which is a scalar wave. And five companies control 90% of the media. Whoever controls the media is controlling the sound, which is going into the mental brain, which is interacting with our children and our uncles' scalar waves, which is programming, television programming. And they're controlling, 5 companies control 90% of not only the radio waves, the scalar waves, the media, but also the medical system, but also the financial system, but also all these different systems. And what Dr. Greg is doing is he's bringing you into the jungle, into that interconnection where everything's connected. He's giving you the structured water, right? Which is literally heal the water, and the water will heal us, because we are water, literally. And then he's taking natural herbs from the earth, which are mimicking, the isotonic of our blood, of our hemoglobin, of all these different things. And he's taking that literally cleanse this, detox all this EMF and shit out of our system. And then in that state, what he's saying is then our heart opens up and we're able to find a flow state. And this is science, because when our heart is open, and we're in a feeling state, and we're safe in our body, and all this junk and shit is gone, we're present. And in that state, there's an electromagnetic field 5 to 15 feet in all directions, which is carrying frequency, which literally our heart is a magnet, literally. And so you can go into a city, you don't even know anybody, and your heart is open, you're resonating frequency. We attract what we are. And I've had this happen before when I'm in that state, where I can literally go into a city with not having a dollar, and like all my needs are taken care of. And like, if my heart is open and I'm flowing, everything that I need is provided for. And this flow state starts to happen when we're out of our thinking mind, and we're in this kind of feeling centered, present state of open-hearted and detox. So I'm tracking, the wisdom that you're speaking about. Now, Dr. Greg, what is most alive for you these days as you look at kind of where humanity's at right now? It seems like it's going to be a very interesting next 2 to 5 to 10 years. AI is coming online. Where is humanity at, and what do you see? Like, I think for every season of humanity, like 5 years ago, everybody was doing breath work. Now I think this is the season of detox and cleansing and embodiment. Can you talk to us about what do you see in humanity right now, and what's exciting you about what we can do for humanity?
Yeah, there's definitely a huge call right now to detox and cleanse, right? People are like, I need to do something. And they're searching and searching and searching, and they know that something is up, right? So if you look at the global consciousness scale right now, we're at 207, according to David Hawkins, right? So we pushed past the 200 point. At 200, we have courage. We have responsibility. So we're literally entering the age of courage plus responsibility, to me, which equals evolution. Without courage, without responsibility, without willingness, nothing's changing at all. So we've all entered that globally. So even if you're at like 80, vibration, you're getting pulled up globally, right? US is about 453. So it's sort of leading that new 1776 revolution of like, enough of this bullshit kind of thing. What do we need to now do? So people are really being empowered at that state, right? So at 200, we also know the difference between truth and falsehood, right? There's a difference between being empowered or power versus forcing life. Oh, come on, I just got to keep doing it. So as we see this global consciousness start to rise, what people want to do is get into that vibration, right? So if you're at 190, 160, to do that means you got to get rid of the Roundup, right? You got to get rid of the weed killer. You got to get rid of glyphosate. You got to get rid of the nanotech. You got to get rid of old as shit. You got to start hitting enemas. You got to throw some tobacco in there. Nicotine's kind of the best ever. You got to throw some licorice root in there. You got to throw a whole host of things, cat's claw in there. A lot of these things that we're facing now, we look at the old Shipibo master herbs. We look at Podarca. We look at cat's claw. We look at, DMT. Why are people now gravitating to DMT, right? Because that's a spirit molecule. Every single thing contains DMT. But what our bodies are designed for is to break it down, right? So as we're taking in DMT, we're still supposed to have a physical experience. So your body purposely breaks down DMT with monoamine oxidase. If we get a monoamine oxidase inhibitor, right, we start to have a flood experience, realizing this little 0.05 that we see, we're now into the allness, right? Because we broke down the program. We don't want to be having a DMT experience every time we touch a tree or walk on the grass, right? So the program says, live the illusion as if nobody else is around, as if you don't have 7 guides and angels, as if you're not the most powerful being on the planet, right? Forget that. Just keep going, be at work, just you need the money. You need more money. You need more money. Don't worry about anything else. We got the music to distract you. We got the Netflix to distract you. We got more movies. We got more videos. We got ba, 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 ba. It's all about creation versus distraction, right? On those two polarities. And humanity's at a choice. What do you actually want to create, right? So if you look at the mind, this is the electrics, right? If you marry that with the heart, you have an electromagnetic signature. If you get into the feeling state and the thinking state, you're literally in this holograph, you're manifesting. Quantum physics calls it superimposition, that every single reality exists at this crucial point in history right now. Every single reality. When we hit a critical mass point, right, the 100th monkeys, we start to invoke that power to create this reality for those that aren't bothering to create. So each soul has the ability to bypass up to 10 million other souls at a lower vibration with the power of the image, right? So we're marrying the mind, we're marrying the heart, electromagnetism, we get into that wholeness. So as we go to bed, we're closing our eyes, right? If we curse out the schools, if we curse out this is horrible, okay, great. What do you want it to be like? Oh, the school lunch is horrible at school. All right. Did you create an image of what you want the school lunch to be? No. We got to stop being the passive observer and be more of the active creator. We have to shut off the purpose distraction and get into the active creation. And as soon as you do it, right, the universe is scanning you at 1/100 millionth of a second. This is known as the Heisenberg observer principle. When you get to that 100% expectation, which is what Jesus did. It's like, that's not water, that's wine. They're like, what? Jesus, man, that's crazy. Because he knew that he can invoke that 100% expectation that everything is a holograph coming from the mind and the heart. you can start to work on that electromagnetics through 100% expectancy, you get into the art of true creation, right? So as we start to merge with the darkness of the world and the Agenda 2030 and the AI, and don't worry, I'll do it for you. I'll do this for you. I'll do that for you. It's like, right? That's a disempowering kind of thing, right? If we want it easy and we're not willing to learn how to do something and someone else knows how to do it, there'll be a time when we're forced to do that, right? It's people, I don't need to, know how to fix a tire on my car. It's like, okay, sure you don't. I'll call AAA until the time they're not available, right? So the time now is for people to really get empowered and giving up the crutches, right? The mental crutches, the physical crutches, the distractions, the old emotions that are pulling us back to the uncontemplated experience, which we agreed as a catalyst to evolve. How are we thanking those who have hurt us? How are we working on compassion? How are we working on peace and harmony? Because we're one light being on this planet that's affecting every other thing. We just can't see it, right? Because the illusions say, no, that doesn't matter. Look, I can't see anything in my hands. There's no energy here. It's like, you're not measuring it properly. Now when we bring the right device in, whoa, I have light on my fingers. Where do you want to put that light? Now what can you do with your water? How can you intentionalize everything? All right, when you wake up, what are the things you want for today before checking the phone, checking the news, right? The olds, all the bullshit of the world. What is it that you truly wish to create and invest that time? And it's literally 2 minutes a day, right? Everything in my life, I've sit and we've written it down, we manifest it in the most impossible way, like literally the most impossible way. You're like, because all the universe is actors playing for you based on your Truman Show. Every single person. And when you start to master the film script, the movie screen of life is simply the feedback to the film script. You say, well, how did I create that? That's a blind spot. Ooh, I had a fear of versus a love of. So we're at the age now, we passed 200, we're out of the fear of scarcity. We're into the love of abundance, right? We're out of the fear of disease. We're into the love of health. These are complete shifts in polarities. What does that feel like? What does the love polarity feel like, right? Most divorces are coming from a fear of separation, right? The most beautiful unions are coming from a love of, union. And union's 528 hertz, right? Separation's 0.9 hertz. That's the same frequency as fear and pain, right? Same frequencies as hospitals as well. If you're in fear or pain or separated from yourself, there's an electromagnetic match of learning to enhance that in a hospital setting, right? And many other things. We understand that everything is energy and vibration, and everything is coming into our field as learning, right? That every single thing we're experiencing individually and a familial cluster, and then collectively as a neighborhood and as a planet is for the learning. Right? Every single thing that we learn has to come from experience. There's no getting out of any single possible thing in this 3D world. We have 76,000 years cycles of incarnations. We repeat as many times as necessary, again and again and again. So we're at that peak where people are like, I'm now more active in saying, well, what do I truly want? I mean, how people like post 2020 or previous to 2020 have ever thought about the political situation? Like ever. Now it's like, whoa, you guys have been doing this? What? What have you been injecting into who? What? Like, oh, damn, I didn't know I had to get involved in every facet of society. I thought somebody else would do it, right? And if you want somebody else to do it, there's a karma behind that, right? Because there's a laziness, right? So as Thomas Jefferson said, the cost of freedom is constant vigilance. The cost of energetic freedom is constant vigilance. The cost of spiritual freedom, the cost of mental freedom, the cost of emotional freedom, and the cost of physical freedom. What are you doing today to invoke that creative process in yourself and in others, right? To be at your soul's highest potential. To do that means we have to get rid of all the darkness, right? And darkness is just a deficiency in light. So as you bring more photonic food, more raw food, we do 100% raw food here. We bring all the beautiful herbs, the medicinals, the plants, the most amazing chocolate ever, slow ground for 30 days, like all of that stuff. As you bring in that light, what happens is your vessel becomes pure light again. You become illuminated because that's the design of the body, is to be charged by the energy of the sun. Heliotherapy, right? That's now been bastardized. So as we understand, everything is the balance of love and light, divine masculine is light, right? Knowledge, wisdom, gnosis, electrical energy, married with the divine feminine, which is magnetic or love energy, you create this electromagnetic wholeness, all right? This is why we have that exactly inside of our bodies. This is why we see the last battle of the masculine and the feminine. Well, that's not really a man. That could be a man. We're like, what? That's the way of confusion, right? By design, because the darkness is on their way out. They don't stand a chance anymore. The people have been awakened. You could try every trick you want. People are detoxing, cleansing, they're feeling, they're rejecting all the poisons, they're growing their own food. You could spray it from the sky. We take care of that as well. And on and on and on it goes. People are empowered for action and true creation right now. So the world is kind of in the hands of the creators and those willing to do the deeper work, right?
Beautiful. Yeah. And so the Schumann resonance, I love how you bring it back the frequency is rising. And so in America, it's rising. Around the globe, it's rising. In higher frequency, all it does is that light exposes darkness. And that's all darkness is the absence of light. And so as the light exposes darkness, everybody's going to have a choice, and yeah, we're coming into this state and age now where we're remembering, and we've always been, and we're just remembering as we detox. And so I appreciate your work, Dr. Greg. How can people find this amazing chocolate? How can people find you in Costa Rica and experience this detox process as my friends Adriana and Isabel experienced? Can you tell the people a little bit about how they can find your work and connect with you?
Yeah, you can go to the superheroprogram.com and you can fill out a form and get in touch there. You can find the Superhero Podcast with Dr. Gregory Damato on Spotify as well. And we go into big pieces of the puzzle there. And yeah, that's the easiest way to get in touch.
Beautiful. So check it out, superheroprogram.com. Take a trip to, you're in Costa Rica, right?
Yeah, we're in the Caribbean coast of Costa Rica where all the medicine grows. It's such a beautiful spot.
Cool. Yeah, and like literally, it's doing some amazing detox work and getting us back into our right frequency. And I heard about this chocolate. I think I actually tried a little bit. So yeah, amazing chocolate. If you didn't hear, check it out, superheroprogram.com and Superhero Podcast. Dr. Greg, if there was a billboard right now on New York's Times Square and you could broadcast a message to humanity, and then they would hear your voice, your scalar wave through your voice, your soul. What is your kind of message to humanity right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's two words. It's time. We've all known that we're meant to be here at this time. We've like guarantee we're like, okay, I need to be here. I need to be here. Like, dude, this is the crux of the end of 3D, end of 4D. Nah. Front row seat, baby. You're going to be Alzheimer's 99. I want a front row seat to 2030. Right. So we're on the crux of, okay, yeah. What are we going to choose? Right. Are we tired of the war? Are we tired of the bullshit? Are we tired of the falsehood? Are we tired of the chemicals, the spraying of the food, all of the bullshit? Right. Are we tired of slavery versus freedom? Right. And freedom is the same frequency as acceptance. So we accept the fact that we have to empower ourselves to truly create what we're deeply desiring. It starts right here. Switching off the Netflix, using that time to deeply connect with your soul, meditate with your guides, start to create, feel that vibration, and get very intentional about everything that you wish to do and watch the universe take over for you through massive synchronicity and divinity, because the world is made of way more magic than anything else.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you end with that. And I'll also just kind of, one of the things I'm taking away is we know this, but the Heisenberg principle, when you get so locked in your mental mind and your expectation of what the universe wants, the universe is mental, right? And, Dr. Greg was saying that this is what Jesus was doing. That's not water, that's wine. And he had literally that belief that you can, is the first thing, and then lock in. And, Dr. Greg was saying it only takes 2 minutes a day, especially when you're in a flow state. And so I highly recommend going down Costa Rica, cleansing, and literally becoming, I might probably do it sometime, and literally becoming just who we really are. And when we are in that state, we flow. And when we flow, what is meant to find is we attract what we are. And there's never been a better time, in my opinion, to have that front row seat, to detox, to get out of the mind, and to combine the electromagnetic heart and the mind into electromagnetic balance, male and feminine, and to get a front row seat. And there's never been a better time to do it now. So if you're feeling the call, check out superheroprogram.com and Superhero Podcast with Dr. Greg. And, down in Costa Rica, he's putting together some amazing detox programs, and perhaps bring back some chocolate for me too. All right, beautiful souls. Till next time. Peace.